Coming into the draft, the Eagles will have the most information on Jalen Carter possible, and that's all I can say. Oh, what's going on, Philadelphia? Hello, everybody. It is a wonderful spring day. We have Thomas Pederson here with us. I'm John Barchard, of course, along with Vince Quinn and Taylor Kredatus, and all of you bird brains. Oh, my gosh. Oh, it is draft season. I'm actually very thankful that Thomas is here because I really haven't watched too much tape, and I really need some... I need some more information, really, on, why everyone hates LVN. Jalen Carter has indeed said hello to the Eagles. There's a bunch of names to debate, I guess, between the three of us when it comes to, the interior and the defensive line in general. So, Vince Quinn, how are you? Thomas Pederson, how are you? I'm very excited to do this, and we plan on doing at least 4 of these leading up to the draft. So, gentlemen, shall we get right into the nitty-gritty and... Yeah, I don't know, Tyree Wilson, I've not watched 0.0.com tape of him, and everybody loves him. Tell me about him.
Yeah, well, for me, first off, I'm just surprised that, and I'm disappointed either in the Twitter universe for, hiding this guy from me, or people haven't talked about him enough as an Eagles project, because I turn him on, and I'm just like, holy shit, this guy is amazing. He does everything. He's playing on the left. He's playing on the right. He's standing up. He's playing on the line. He's a phenomenal player, and he's a massive human being. 6'6", 275, moves incredibly well. I mean, this guy is fun, dude. He's just one of those players that you instantly fall in love with, and I'm immediately like, all right, well, how high am I willing to trade up to go and get this guy, and what is it going to take, and whatever. It's awesome to see a player like this. And I think part of it is and Thomas, you can really speak to this too, is it's so much fun. It's so exciting to look at all these different pass rushers, and all of them are on the table, it feels like. In all these previous years, it was the Eagles are in a 4-3, so they're looking for a certain kind of guy. Are they going to convert this outside linebacker? Maybe not. It doesn't seem likely. So a lot of those guys, they just didn't fit. But when you can look at pretty much anybody that's out there that can get after the quarterback and be like, maybe they could be an Eagle. You see a guy like Tyree Wilson, you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. It's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only real defensive line spot for the Eagles that they're for sure probably not going to dip into. I mean, they're for sure not going to dip into is the 0-tech, 1-tech defensive tackle where we have Jordan Davis and the expectation that he's going to make a massive leap. And so Tyree Wilson would be absolutely perfect for that defensive end that you slide in there in a 3-man interior front, and create that one-on-one matchup. I mean, just the pure imagination of him going against the guard one-on-one on a consistent basis is scary, to be honest. And I mean, the strength that he plays with is out of this world. Sometimes you see big players and they just don't really live up to it with the physicality that they're gonna that they're playing with. I think we're going to get a little bit into that with Lucas Van Ness. I know John has a big speech on him later. But speaking of guys that really has an insanely large frame, you mentioned the measurables of him. And when you're looking at the tape, sometimes you can get caught up in a little bit thinking, is he a little bit stiff in his hips? Is he not really changing direction as fast as you'd want? But also then you realize how big of a human being he is and how much body he has to move when he's doing so, and then it really becomes that much more impressive what he's able to do as a pass rusher. And I mean, just that simple, that fit that he would provide for the Eagles as that really that spot that Javon Hargrave has left also, that you need that pass rushing on the interior, would fit perfectly. I would never put him on an edge only. I would never have him in a 7 technique, a wide 9 technique, because I don't think he has the consistent bend to get to the edge of NFL offensive tackles, and I wouldn't rely on his speed of consistently beating someone, because NFL offensive tackles can anchor a lot differently than what college offensive tackles can do. So that's going to look a lot different when he comes into the pros. But for the Eagles specifically, and because like you mentioned, Vince, that's why he fits perfectly for the Eagles, or would fit perfectly for the Eagles, because of that versatility on the inside of the line.
They love guys like that. I mean, yeah, you mentioned Hargrave. That's what it's all about, right? You can move these guys around. Milton Williams now is going to be that guy to some degree. Like he's got that flexibility. So it's just cool. It's exciting to see players like this and be like, man, it's a real option. I mean, like honestly, though, where do you think he goes, Thomas? Like, how? Because a lot of people, it just seems like he's not going to make it to 10. Are we talking?
I even saw 8 today, to be honest. Like, that seems to be everybody's kind of that 6 to 8 is what I keep seeing in the last, week and a half from a lot of people.
6 to 8?
He's going to go high. I mean, and even especially now with the whole Jalen Carter situation, as that whole thing went about, that just shot up the value of Tyree Wilson even more, because then he's kind of, you had the popular 3 guys would be Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and Tyree Wilson. That's been mostly the ones who's been talked about the most. But I mean, even a guy you saw last year, how a Trevon Walker just shot up draft boards because of projection and how he was built in his frame. Well, that's kind of the same projection you'll be going with Tyree Wilson, except that he's even bigger and he's an even more versatile piece on the defensive line. So he's going to go high. I think the Eagles would have to trade up if they're going to get him. It's a defensive line heavy. The NFL right now is built on the defensive line. Simple as that. I mean, the best defenses have defensive lines that produce a ton of pressure, and so that's where people are going to be dipping early and heavy, because it is a really heavy defensive line draft, especially on the guys that can rotate on the interior. And I think Tyree leads that pack.
If there is a chance, because it is, I just get this sense, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong on this. I don't feel like, great, Fletcher Cox is here for $10 million. Awesome. We know what Jordan Davis can do. Everyone pretty much thinks Milton Williams is what he is, with some room to grow in there for what he is as a player. A lot of the guys that the Eagles have been linked to don't sound like complete home runs. And I know we've talked about, this is probably the only podcast that's going to be obsessed with Lucas Van Ness and talking about his value and whatever. But the fact that he's been linked in weird places throws me off. I would never, I'm still here saying don't take him at 10. That's absurd. But do you guys believe that there is a bullet in the barrel here? Because that's what I keep sensing. Whether that's Jeffrey Simmons or a guy like him, I've been bringing up DeForest Buckner. Let's say that happens. How much does the focal point of defensive tackle change? Because, what are you saying at that point if that happens? Or is it Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and hopefully this 25 to 27-year-old D tackle that's the future, and you don't have to have as much pressure on you at 10? Do you guys think that is still likely to happen here? Or is because I get the sense that everybody's expects the Eagles to take a defensive tackle with 10 or 30, no doubt in this, and I'm still skeptical of that a little bit here. You guys at all?
I'm not. For me, I think defensive tackle's totally on the board. I don't think they're going to trade for one of those guys as much as possible, because you still have to pay Jalen Hurts, and at some point you just need young players. They've made the investments in all these different guys, offensive linemen, keeping them around. Hassan Reddick is good value, but it's still $18 million a year or whatever it is. It's just at some point you got to be cheap somewhere. So when you got this much depth and you can build it for the next couple of years, as BG's probably out of here in a year, which we've been saying for 5 years now. Fletcher Cox is probably out of here in a year, which we've been saying for a couple of years now. At some point, it's going to actually happen, and you just need these guys to step up. So I get the Simmons stuff. I think he's a great fit, but you got to get young kids.
Yeah, and I wonder if, Thomas, do you think a guy like Jeffrey Simmons would be a great long-term solution if you gave up 30 to the Titans and then just kind of waited to see what happened at 10? Or do you think that's you're on more than Vince said, you got to get younger right away?
I think I'm kind of split on a little bit. You mentioned 30 specifically as a compensation for him. I think in the case that he's moved, it's because Titans can't pay him. Otherwise, you wouldn't let a guy of his stature get out the building. And because he's been consistently top 3, top 5 pessimistically in the NFL. So if you're trading for him, you're giving him $100 million. That has to come with the price, and so it's very rich for me. I know he's 25. He's a hell of a player. He's 2-time second team All Pro, I think, consecutively. So you're getting a hell of a player, but you're also giving up a major asset in every way, both in the draft and from a financial standpoint. If they do it, now I was on here last year saying that there's no way they're trading for A.J. Brown on draft night, so I'm not going to say anything this year. if they
Hey, it's not as bad as saying go get Russell Wilson still. So.
Nah.
Who would do that?
If they do trade for Jeffrey Simmons or any defensive tackle on draft night, no way does it exclude that they draft one as well. Simply because of that long-term solution. Fletcher Cox out the door, even like or defensive end as well with BG. At some point, you gotta figure, are you keeping Hassan Reddick beyond his contract right now? Because like Vince said, you can't pay everybody, and with the Eagles' track record of drafting and how the projection is looking right now, age-wise and contract-wise for some of these guys, they need everything that they can get on defensive line.
Interesting. And out of curiosity, between edges and everybody else, is there anybody that you would say, well, let's just use Simmons as an example because we're on it. Is there anybody, either edge or D tackle, that you would go, man, I would, if he was in this draft, where would you put Simmons? At the top, number one?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you can always...
Nobody in close?
If you have a chance of getting an all-pro defensive tackle at 25 years old, I mean, we mentioned Tyree Wilson. He's going to be 23 by the time the season starts. So you're talking about a 2-year difference, and this guy is an all-pro in the NFL already. So from that, I mean, that's apples to oranges. I mean, he's just obviously he's the better player. Of course he is. But what you're banking on here, especially with the Hurts contract coming up, like Vince said, you're banking on getting a guy of Jeffrey Simmons-ish value, but on a rookie deal and with a fifth-year option as well. So you have 5 years of terrific play, or 4 years, and then that player's going to get super pissed because he doesn't have a contract extension, and you're banking on that. It's like that's why we can have AJ Brown as the top 5 paid wide receiver, and Devontae Smith is on a rookie contract. That's why that looks extremely good. So you're banking on getting a guy like Devontae Smith, but for the defensive line.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting to kind of see how that unfolds over the next few days. And I know the Jets and Packers are going to be active on trade deadline day too. So I'm hoping some crazy things shift around and the Titans are really dumb and give them a really good deal. And
yeah, we just want excitement.
Yes, yeah, of course, as always. I don't think anything will top last year because we were all part of that, and I was dancing in my shoes when AJ Brown was traded, and it was. I hope something happens like that. That's a ton of fun. So
I think the more realistic, like if they were to put out a shocker trade or something like that, would be for a Kevin Byard type where like it's relatively more payable. I mean, it's a much cheaper position for a guy of like who's one of the best safeties in the league. You're still looking at around, like, what is he on, a 12-year now, $12 million per year now. It's the same thing that he doesn't want to take a pay cut. If he's requested a trade, if he wants out the door, his value is not going to be high. So you're not going to give up one of those first-round picks or even a second-round pick for him at that point because you are the guy who's taking on his contract. So I mean, and he's aging up there. So that's a guy that you can spend a little bit more on the money part, but you're not really sacrificing your future with some of those higher picks, and you can still get cheaper elsewhere.
Give Vince Quinn a safety, for Christ's sake, right? That's what I think.
Nice, God
right?
damn it! I mean, we had a moment. We had a guy, and then he had a terrible agent, and everything goes to shit. So whatever. What do I know? I just wanted Kyle Hamilton. God damn it! But here's the thing. I like looking at where this is with the defensive class. There's enough guys that, depending on how this shakes out, I mean, it's like, okay, if you go Jalen Carter, he's more of an interior guy, so you could go and get another edge guy later at 30. You know what I mean?
Carter
like,
can play anywhere, wins.
Dude, he's crazy. I've never seen a defensive tackle spy. He was spying
anywhere
on plays. Crazy.
I'd love to have been the fly on the wall on his visit with the Eagles, because if all the we know there's a bunch of off the field stuff, we're not going to speculate on it. We don't know shit about what's going on there, what's been said, or anything like that. All we can say, if it checks out, if they're comfortable with him, for me it's an either or. Like, either you're comfortable with him and he has a story to hold back that thing up. Nicole Bedeau and Jordan Davis say he's the best guy ever. Blah blah blah. All this thing, and he's cleared from all this legal stuff. They're in on him or they're out. Like every other team. Like, reportedly, Raiders and what was the other team? Some other team took him off his board. and that was a big story. And naturally, it is. It's going to scare away other teams in that area. But his agent has told him something, since he is not taking any visits from teams not in the top 10 range in the draft. And so I think if the Eagles are comfortable with him, to take him on, take that character and all that, everything goes into it, they're going to trade up for him.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, he did have an official Eagles visit that was reported today on the day we're recording this on Monday, along with the other team that escapes my mind.
Bears.
The Bears, that's right, which makes a ton of sense there. So there you go, 9-10, just like you said. I do think his agent told him something, and I will just say this: coming into the draft, the Eagles will have the most information on Jalen Carter possible, and that's all I can say.
Who did they interview? Who did they interview for the defensive coordinator position?
Thomas brings up a very valid point, and there's other things to go along with that. So they will have done their homework, I think, in a big way there. This is something that I kind of had put in my brain. Remember when we were talking about that, Vince? I just said, you know what? What would stop him from pulling the trigger and going all the way up to 1 or 4 or 5? And now he's not even probably going to have to do that. I suspect that Jalen Carter's going to be an Eagle, don't you?
I can see him at 10. I can see him falling to 10 just because everybody is
And at
scared
8
of all
or
this
whatever.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, John? The way things are moving with the draft, Kalijah Cansey is going to be the guy. He's going at 5. Like, everybody loves this guy all of a sudden because combines, it gets people nuts. So when you get compared to Aaron Donald and go to Pitt, it's going to do that. So everybody's just all riled up, all horned up on Kalijah Cansey. So I don't know, but. Yeah, I mean, I would see Carter there. I could see them easily trading up. Look, they got 12 picks next year. At some point, you just got to say fuck it and give some stuff away and go trade up. So I think this is the perfect place to do it, and that's why, again, you could do something like that, and then, I don't know, Andre Carter's really fun. I would take him at 30. I don't know how you feel about him, Thomas, but I saw that guy at 6'7". There was a point where he's chasing a running back down the field, and, over his head, gets an arm up and swats a ball away in it was almost like a Hakeem Olajuwon hook shot, but he's blocking a pass. Yeah, I was like, I've never seen this in my life. And that way you've got inside, you've got outside. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of flexibility if you get a guy like Carter at 8 if they move up and get him.
I don't know. So Andre Carter from Army?
Yeah.
Right. So Andre is not. I had some difficulties with Andre because you see some flashes, and you just see a guy who's extremely immature as an all-around football player. He's got some strength to his game. He's got some pass rush moves and that flashes here and there, but there is so much inconsistency with him. He gets washed in the run game. He's gone in the run game. Tight ends can take him out. And whenever I see that, I kind of cringe up a little bit. And it's nope. And so Carter is – the Andre Carter, not the Jalen Carter, is a project for me. I get massive Marcus Smith vibes when I watch him
I'm already
play.
getting shivers.
He plays high. He lacks some explosiveness. He's not great against the run. Project player for me. I think there are so many guys in this draft that have pass rush abilities that I would prefer much more than Andre Carter.
All I'm hearing is that Thomas is a foreign national. He hates the American Army. So that's all this is. It's clearly a vendetta, and I will have none of that. Go get him, Andre Carter.
Coming from a country that doesn't have an army, I'm not sure what I'm watching.
Yeah, that's right. And for those of you who don't know, by the way, Thomas Pederson is a full-fledged actual coach. We can officially say that now. Wrong with your real crazy last daytime job there.
Jersey on and everything with the coaches gear. Danish American Football Federation.
Woohoo! That is the official Danish national team, right, buddy?
Yeah. Yep.
So
linebackers.
You have a mascot? Are you the Danish blank? You know what I mean?
I don't think we have a mascot yet, actually.
Oh, you guys got to figure that out.
Yeah, I know cheerleading has become a big thing. That's been is a sport that I guess can you call it a sport? It's something that's grown basically as much as
competition. I would say.
Yeah,
if it's on ESPN, I guess it counts, right?
I mean, again, when you watch them practice and all, like, it's super athletic. Like, the things that those guys are doing is incredible. So they actually got the pom-poms on the logo here. So we have football and you got the pom-poms. I mean,
Look at that.
cool.
Guys are the Danish community very serious about the American football, and we appreciate that. We floated the idea of coming out there for, like, you know, if you guys' first big game or whatever it is, and trying to live stream it for everybody just to see what it's all about. I would love it. So don't think we're not kidding about that. You let us know, pal.
Well, you guys would be amazed coming to Denmark, I think.
I hear they have amazing pizza sandwiches there. That came from a friend of mine, and I don't know if that's true, but we'll go find it together. I do believe, speaking of projects, that they're like, I don't know, I don't get it. I feel like we're in project hell after the top 20. So I really need your nuanced thoughts here, and this is going to be a time where I'll probably fight for my guy and all that stuff. But just want to remind everybody, much like Thomas, we would go nowhere without his football noggin, and we do not go anywhere on the road or at parties without Liquid Death. And now is the best time to get into the Liquid Death community, because if you haven't already tried their iced tea, the Grim Leafer, which is phenomenal, and I see flavors coming out like left and right, and people are telling me, like, this one stinks, this one's great, but all I can tell you, the severed lime, the iced tea, the OG water, any basically of the sparkling flavors are a home run for us. And go to liquiddeath.com/Bell to not only find where you can get Liquid Death nearest you, especially at the 7-Eleven locations, which I frequent all the time, but it also gets you 20% off of all of their merch, because it's incredible, all of their stuff. In fact, who is it, Taylor, that they just came out with? Didn't they just do a death ball or something like that with somebody's head in the NBA? And was it Jalen Green, that or somebody like that? I can't remember. Yes, you can play with, like, I don't know, some dude's head. It was like Tom's basketball head. So it's an insane amount of stuff that they have over there. liquiddeath.com/Bell. And let me tell you guys, we're going to fight about defensive line people for the rest from now until the draft, and I look forward to every single moment of it. Thomas, I'm curious. I know it's a decide defense. Typically, nothing's going to pretty much change here from what we saw last year. The same principles will be the same. God, I hope they're a little more aggressive, obviously. But do you believe at any point, with the types of guys that have been, like, next to some the Eagles organization alone, it seems like they're kind of like a lot of two-gapping guys, or the capability of doing that between, Brian Breesy and LVN, I would even say at some point, just because it doesn't look like these guys have a ton of, like, the pass rush attack ability. They seem like large, huge units with power. I would say that, between the three of the guys, I know it's still a toss-up, but, like, Kancey, to me, has the best type of, like, hand movement overall. I think he's the, like, wins a lot of battles that way, and the other two are basically relying on their power and their strength as their main attributes. You disagree with that at all? And out of those three guys, who do you think fits best with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that statement. I think Kalijah Kancey, pound for pound, is the most explosive player in the entire draft of any position. I mean, he is a freak. Like, he's an anomaly watching play. And a guy of his stature, basically, I mean, you look at the spider charts and you see how he's off the charts and everything, and then you get the height, weight, and arm length, and you're like, where is the line? I mean, he is super small, but when you put on the tape, he's lining up at zero technique frequently. He's lining up at wide 9. He's all over the defensive line. You could put him at linebacker and let him spy the quarterback. I mean, you wouldn't notice that it was a defensive tackle playing in that position. And that's the thing for me when looking at this. You can clearly see when you're looking at social media and the draft community, who is analyzing numbers and who's analyzing tape. Because if you're analyzing numbers, you're going to hate Kalijah Kancey. And you're going to look at him and you say, nobody's ever done that except for Aaron Donald. It's not going to happen. I wouldn't take the risk, yada, yada. Like, you might take a late first-round flyer on him, and you go with that. But if you only base it off tape and what he's been able to produce, he is using every single ounce of his body so well, working against double teams, working from a zero technique. Like he can stand in one gap, jump to the opposite side of the line, and he's in the B gap like that. You don't see any of other guys do that. So if you work in a defense where you can work with a lot of space. So basically, if you have, let's say you have a guy lined up at a 5-tech, 0, and a 3. So you have a lot of space to work with right there. And you're in a pass situation. Kalai Kansi is an animal because he can set up offensive linemen in ways that simply they can't. Like they've lost that battle to begin with, simply because of how he's able to move. But when you look at his strength and obviously Lucas Van Ness, and who was the other guy you said, John?
Brian Breezy.
Right.
Or Breeze,
so
or how do I pronounce it wrong?
Bressie, I think, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like those guys, they only win on their physicality. They have no pass rush moves. Sometimes they push pull, not often. So when they get a sack, it's often coincidental. Like they'll push the pocket and the quarterback goes into their arms, they get the sack. Kalai Kansi generates pressure by himself. Like you can have nowhere else in the defensive line where any pressure is created, and he gets the sack. So when you're looking at a guy of his stature, what you want to see is him utilize that size to his advantage when he's going against running, and when he does have that double team going up against him. I don't like. It would be a stretch to say that he's good at playing double teams, but he knows how to work his size to that advantage. Like he gets lower than everybody else naturally. His launch point is fast, so he usually generates more power than the offensive lineman before they make contact. And so when they actually do get that push from the two-man gap, he usually stops one. He'll rip his arm under one of them, so he's basically he's in his gap, but he's in an awkward position to block. Does that make sense? So basically, you're not really getting that smooth two-man push that you usually see on big, slow defensive tackles because they can't move against it. Kalai Kansi, he'll slap the hands off one of them, he'll lean into the other, and he'll stand still. He won't generate the tackle against the run, but he'll set up everybody else for success because he's not getting moved down the line. Like you don't get those classic shoved multiple yards down the field on that. So he's unique on his tape in that he plays much larger than what his spider chart suggests, and he is the best. He's the best pass rusher I've seen as a defensive lineman ever. And I didn't watch Donald, so probably that's why. But I mean, he is his explosiveness alone is enough for me to want to say, yep, I want to pair that guy with Jordan Davis and whoever is at a 5-tech or wide 9, and just let him work one-on-one against the offensive line or against guards. Like stunt games go to a whole new level. Like if you can stunt with him and Hassan Reddick, holy
yes.
Yeah,
to me.
Well, let me ask you, Tom's 10? Are we talking pick 10 here?
I mean, I just want I want good players. I wouldn't, like, if they draft him at 10, I love it. If they draft Bijan Robinson, fine. I mean, I just want good players. I want somebody who's a really, really good player. And you can talk positional value. Like, it's the same conversation, I guess, we'll be having at that point, is that Kalai Kansi, this super small defensive tackle, Bijan Robinson, the running back, heck, Jalen Carter, the guy who has off-the-field concerns. Like, they're all phenomenal players. And if they think all the situation checks out in terms of what they have planned otherwise, fine. So I'll be perfectly fine with drafting Kalai Kansi at 10 because at worst you're getting a guy who is a situational pass rushing monster. At best, you're getting a guy who's in that Ed Oliver type range. I mean, it might not be Aaron Donald. Ed Oliver is too small too. Javon Hargrave's too small. If you look at it just based but he's built thick, so he can really generate power against guys. Don't tell me you watched the Eagles last year and say Javon Hargrave can sustain a double team. No, he can't.
Right.
That doesn't happen. So what are we really talking about at that point? Do we want guys who can stand up a double team? Fine, draft Lucas Van Ness, and you'll see zero production in pass rush. But we'll stall guys. Yay! I want pass rush, and he gives that.
So he's going to be great for the tush push as well. So put him in there and push.
You come in for Jalen. He'll come in for Jalen Hurts. I don't know who squats more. I think Jalen Hurts might do that.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you too. Like if he is clearly the one you should take a swing at the most between the three that I mentioned. But like, to me, I really want to understand what everybody's problem is with LVN after that. You know, if you're really talking about either taking him at 30, going up at 22, where I've seen a lot of people take Brian, what's everyone's fucking problem? They're the same player, and Lucas Van Ness can play two positions pretty well. I don't understand where this he's not athletic bullshit comes from. He doesn't know how to do it, and that's clear on tape. That's 100% clear. That's what everybody sees, is this power rushing, not producing his own pressure, and I don't disagree with any of that. I also know the Iowa program is worth balls nothing on that side of the ball when it comes to teaching anything right now, and it's in turmoil and in a turnaround. If you teach that kid how to bend, how to use his hands, he is going to be one of the most deadly in and out players in the NFL, and no one wants to take a swing at him because they're all listening to Ben Solak and his, oh, I'm going to mark him at 70 big brain, which I love to death. But I think that started the trend of like, well, you can't take this guy in the first round, and I just want to say it's bullshit. Am I an Iowa fan? Yes. Do I also know what's going on? Yes. So, like, this is a guy that prototypically would fit in an Eagles organization, especially in the defense that they're about to play in, with guys that love to run stunts all the time. With Jonathan Gannon, couldn't get his head out of that, his ass to run more than a couple of times, it seems like a week. And if you do that with these type of guys, I'm taking LVN every day of the week over Brian. So that's all I wanted to say. Brian's a good kid. I think he looks good, but I have the same critiques that everyone has at LVN. Looks very similar to me with Brian. So that's all.
Yeah, I think if you're going head-to-head comparison between Brian and Lucas Van Ness, I think they're pretty similar players in that you're getting a guy who's flashing, who is super athletic. I think, like you said, John, because that's the thing with Lucas. He is such a freak athlete. It just doesn't show on the tape. Like he'll blow your mind on a combine setting when he's showing, like, he's basically Hercules. But when he's on the field, you just see those technical deficiencies. Like, you see him not working his hands. You see him getting good leverage on the paths of an offensive lineman. He doesn't use it to anything. Like, he doesn't generate any second move. And that's really frustrating. So if you're picking him, it's because you have a defensive line coach that's saying, I can make that guy, what I know, TJ Watt, like a super strong player who can work with the technique. I kind of wanted to say Bjorn Werner, when he was drafted by the Colts, like the same type of guy, like super athletic, physical, but hadn't put it all together. I think it was the Colts.
Yeah,
he was on Hard Knocks, I think, where he's talking to his coach, saying like, you can be $100 million player in this league if you just get your ass together. If you figure this thing out, you're going to be so unstoppable. That's kind of the same thing you're going with if you're drafting a Brian Bresee or Lucas Van Ness, is the projection of those guys. What can they become if you teach them whatever it is, that if it's an edge player or if it's a 3-5 technique, defensive end in a 3-4 scheme, depending on what you want to go with those guys and what you think the best route for them would be. I think it's a little bit concerning. I don't know if it's just incompetence by Iowa, but why wasn't he starting? Not a single, not a single game where.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's this archaic. Do you know what? They've had so many quality defensive linemen or offensive linemen come in and out of there that, like, it is a complete departure from what they are used to doing in the last 2 or 3 years. I really think the pandemic has avoided that in terms of, like, teaching ability. They've really lost something. The guys that cover the team, I'm just reading and kind of like, taking a degree with that. But that's.
I want to get the inside info on it, because if I'm interviewing somebody from Iowa, like a coach there, or I'm interviewing Lucas, the first question I'm asking is, why the hell couldn't you even crack a starting spot? Like, are you bad at practice? Like,
I'm not even using it as an excuse either. He legitimately looks like how I think Rocky Balboa would go play fucking D-end and D-tackle, because it's just like, it is that, I'm just going to fucking go get hit, it's, to me, it is just an unlocking thing, and I know that scares the crap out of draft Twitter people. Like, it is a very much just like, don't do this, just why are you wasting the wasted steps, the wasted efforts, I think is clearly what everybody sees, but from a coaching standpoint, I honestly don't know what Kirk Ferentz is thinking, and it seems a lot to me like all of the coaching staff doesn't have control of their own room. So that to me is kind of some of it, but I'm not disagreeing with the criticism. I'm not disagreeing with the scaredness of like, this could end up really bad and he could look like a 6-rounder. I just don't think that's going to happen. So.
Yeah, see, like when it comes to these two guys, I'd rather go with Brzee because at least from what I've seen, his ability to go in there and then grip a guy up and read things and make a play it's just so disruptive. So like, yeah, just the natural football IQ of playing the position and being able to translate that, it looks like that's a pretty easy thing for him to bring to the pros. So I can believe in that with him more than I can with Lucas. So I look at Brzee for that. And then the other thing is, I mean, look, and we're going back to the same old offseason song and dance here, John. He's a little flabby. He's a little flabby, and if he tightens up a little bit, I'm just saying, if he does, then that guy's going to be a monster. He's just going to. We're not telling you that you're fat. It tighten.
That's what I was like. Are you doing the scene from Knocked Up right now? Because like, I'm pretty sure you're doing that.
That's exactly what it is. It's just going to tighten, just a little bit, tighten.
Oh boy. Well, but we can't go and leave this episode of the program without knowing, like, Thomas, who is somebody that you just love with the defensive line in general. Somebody that's just, whether it's a known favorite, somebody that we don't know too well. Who's your guy right now?
Yeah, so I think I already gave my sales pitch on Calais Kansas. So I'm going to move a little bit later. We talked about the Tyree Wilson. I'm not going to get into Will Anderson too much. I think he is what he is. People know a lot about him. So a little bit going a little bit deeper in the draft, because I think it's a, like, just generally it's kind of it's a light top of the draft here, and then comes a massive cluster within that late first round, even back to third round, of guys with tremendous talent, and especially in the pass rushing area of those 3-5 tech defensive ends that you're going to have in a 3-4 scheme. Like, I'm looking at a guy like Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State, like, really, really good pass rusher. And I know he played for Kansas State, but he made it known that he was the best player on the field when he was there. And you're talking about a guy who's suddenly going to rip off a spin move just because he's trying it. Like, you can see that he's just trying stuff on the field, and it's working all the time. Like, it's fun watching a defensive line just, he's too big to be even trying it, but it kind of works. And so when you have a guy with that plethora of moves, it's really fun to watch. Northwestern, Adetomiwa, I think Adebawore. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with that name. But again, another guy that just moves really well. And is a very natural fit in that 5 tech. And I would love to see either one of those guys being paired. Like, they can start immediately, kind of that Milton Williams type players, but with a lot more technical finesse coming out of college, with, like, just in terms of pass rushing ability. Going to defensive tackle, if not Kalashi Kansey, I think my second, obviously Jalen Carter, but the third guy for me in that area would be Massey Smith from Michigan. Those 3 guys that I just mentioned are really in the same. I feel like I'm watching the same guy in when I'm going through all of them. Like, a guy who has versatility to play from 1 technique to 5 technique, really good pass rusher, not great in against the run, but more than suitable for what you're looking for in a 3-4 guy. So those are some of the, like, that I think they're all projected in somewhere around the late first, second round, mid second round type guys. So either one of those guys, I would be perfectly fine in that 30 range where the Eagles are picking. If they were to draft, like, say, they pull off a stunner, go cornerback, or a 10 or whatever they go, like, all of those guys are perfectly fine for me to be drafted at the end of the first round, because you're getting a pass rushing guy, you can plug and play them immediately. A little bit later in the draft, one guy that stood out to me in terms of watching the Senior Bowl was hold on, let me see, his name escapes me. We haven't talked about Nolan Smith. Actually,
oh yeah, that's right.
I just remembered Yaya Diaby from Louisville. So to me, though, he and B.J. Ojulari from LSU are kind of the same player, except B.J. Ojulari is a much better player. He's much more consistent. He's the best pass rusher in the league in the draft on the edge. Like, you won't find anybody better than B.J. Ojulari. And that's just, it goes with Will Anderson. I don't care who you're talking about here. Ojulari is absolutely the best pass rusher. He's played a bunch of snaps. He's really consistent, so you know what you're getting with him. The same, like, if you get him at 30, love it. Would love the pick. But Yaya Diaby is, I don't know why he's getting a little bit overlooked. He tore it up at the Senior Bowl. Like, he was a mouthful for anybody. Like, Cody Mauk from is North Dakota State, right?
I think so, or South Dakota State. Yeah,
like and that guy. Yeah.
Yaya Diaby was the only one who won reps against Cody Mauk at the Senior Bowl, and he won it with a bend. And when I saw that, I was like, "Yep, I need to watch film of that guy." And he pulled it off again and again and again on the tape as well. So a sleeper kind of guy that I think is probably going to go higher than what people think, but he's projecting that early third, late second. Would love that. What are some of the guys that Vince? I know you've been grinding tape for the last 24 hours here. What is somebody who caught your eye?
Yeah, a big diehard tape guy all the time, and I've been slamming them home, dude. It's like
what about this Nolan Smith guy?
Yeah, well, Nolan Smith. You know what's funny? I fell exactly into the Hassan Reddick trap, where I saw him. I go, he's a great athlete. He's really small. He might be an inside linebacker. And I was like, that's what the Cardinals did. They did the same exact thing, and I don't know if I could do this now. So I'm like gun shy about that. But I mean, the guy's a hell of an athlete. He is small. He's pretty. He was like 235 is what he's listed at. So he's a tiny guy. But also, and this is the same thing with like Ojulari. I think of guys like that size and speed to play with Reddick and learn stuff from him could really be to their benefit. So, in terms of the fit with the Eagles, I think those guys are a better fit here than other places. So I really do dig Nolan Smith. I think he's a second-round guy. If they got him at 30, I guess I'd be okay with it. But, yeah, he's fun. He's a really good player.
Yeah, Nolan Smith is a kind of a tough study because he didn't do a lot of pass rushing, actually. Like, a lot of times he'd be dropped back into coverage. I mean, as Eagles fans, you see that and you go, nope. You just get PTSD.
It's his favorite thing. Yeah.
I love linebackers coverage. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense when you're looking at his figure and what else Georgia had on the defensive line, obviously with Jalen Carter. I mean, they didn't necessarily need to have their guys coming off the edges as much. And when you have an athlete like that, it works to perfection in college. I mean, if there's somebody who pumped up their draft stock at the combine, it was Nolan Smith on the on-field drills. I mean, his way of bending around backs, even, wow, like, holy shit.
he's nasty, man. He's nasty. Like, he plays way bigger than his size. He is ferocious out there, and I always love.
He will really hit. I think that's kind of the theme of this draft here, like undersized players who just look the part when you put on tape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's been kind of the theme, honestly, through a lot of people we've been reading. Lance Zierlein, I feel like, is every report that I read of his is basically the same. Of like, yeah, power to punch D tackle, lacks the ability to shed double teams. Like, there's all these like little things like gonna be a great player maybe next year, and you're going, well, shit, and then you take that same scouting report and everybody could put that at like 10 or 30 or whatever. So I actually think this is the most confusing draft for the interior line. Edges seems a little more clear to me, and even some outside linebackers, which I'm sure we'll get into when we're talking about them in a couple of weeks here too. But Thomas, I can't thank you enough for at least trying to help us make some choices. I got to go look at Nolan Smith's film again too, because now that's a guy I've like hardly paid attention to in this process, and I think that could be pretty interesting. So we appreciate it, buddy. We look forward to the next one, and I don't know, go do some push-ups or something, man. Let's get ready.
Let's do it. Good to be in the draft season. It's always tape study and push-ups is what we do.
That's right.
And Thomas, where can we watch your tape study? Because you're doing us all the time on YouTube. So where can we find you?
Breaking the Birds.
On the old YouTube, Breaking the Birds. That's right.
On the old YouTube. Exactly.
One of the best resources for what the fuck did the Eagles just do, or is this player is actually good or bad as we think he is? Thomas is the man, and look forward to all of that, my friend. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one.